Yeah, this is going to be a really good class. We're in the middle of our Agya Chakra series, and this is a little bit of a departure. So, hey Valerie, Cooper's doing okay. It was okay. It was good. We got it done. We had a very experienced nurse this time, and she still had a hard time getting that IV started, but Cooper was really brave. And yeah, so for those who are like, what is she talking about? My 10-year-old had to have an endoscopy yesterday, which is when they put the camera down the throat, into the stomach, and into the duodenum. And we tried it 2 weeks ago, and it was a big fat fail. And that's at the heart of the inspiration of this class today. So I'm going to be talking about stress and sensitivity. Hey, Daphne. Oh, you're not doing so great today. Oh, man. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, not sleeping well. Yeah, I've got you. Yes. Yes, cliffhanger story. All right, so let's dig into it. So this is a book that I've been reading. I've mentioned it to y'all once or twice. What Happened to You? And it's by Dr. Bruce Perry, who is a child psychiatrist, and Oprah Winfrey. It's a very interesting book. It's set up as if it's a conversation between the two of them. And this is what I wanted to show you all. And sometimes I know it can be a little bit blurry, but this image here, and if y'all happen to have this book, it's on page 79. And what this is, it kind of looks like a leaf, doesn't it? What this is the way that we react to stress. And this line up the middle is neurotypical, okay? This line on the bottom are people who are resilient. And this line on the top are people who have been sensitized. And if you look at this bottom corner, this is calm, and then alert, alarm, fear, and terror. This is going up the chart. And what's really interesting, and what I want you to internalize from this chart, is you look here, the people who have been sensitized, they move from calm up towards fear and terror much faster. So this is like daily challenge, moderate stress, and this says distress or threat, okay? And like in a true threat, all of us, will go up towards terror. But for those of us who have been sensitized, we can get some daily challenges and move quickly up the scale in towards fear, to alarm, alert, fear. While the people who are resilient, look where they are. They're still way down here from a stress level, okay? And I wanted to mention this because what I was saying to you all is I was like, what is neurotypical these days? In light of all we've gone through with COVID, I'm curious if neurotypical is more like up here these days, because I think a lot of us have been sensitized in different ways. So that's the background for what I'm going to talk to you all about today. So with that said, let's come to a seat. Grab a block if you have one, or whatever makes you comfortable. A pillow or a cushion. We're going to be seated for a few minutes because I sent a link to an article in our circle. So if you want to read that, it's there for you. And she mentioned some things that I already had planned on doing. Like she's like, if you're feeling anxious, rub your feet. And I was like, I was already planning on rubbing my feet. I love it. I love this author already. So coming to an easy seat and taking a foot. Now, the feet are connected to Muladhara chakra, okay, which is our root chakra, and that's our space of safety. So when we're feeling really fearful, what's interesting is anxiety lives in the throat, but safety lives in the root. So just massaging the foot, taking one foot, maybe, putting the thumbs into the foot, rolling the foot out, and massaging this foot for a minute or two, really connecting to this foot. And feeling yourself here, sending gratitude into this foot. So the background for the inspiration for this class is, like I mentioned, Cooper had an endoscopy, my 10-year-old, was scheduled to have an endoscopy a little bit over 2 weeks ago. And we went and we could not get an IV started on this child. He was dehydrated. In my ignorance, I did not think about that. I've never done this before. And the experience was really, really hard. Really hard on him. And I gotta tell you, it was really hard on me. He was a mess. Maybe rolling the toes, wiggling them out. And the reason he needs an endoscopy is he's having a hard time swallowing. And we're wondering if there's a thickening of the esophagus. It's something called EOE. So we got home, and Cooper all along was like, I need to have this done. I'm having a hard time swallowing. I mean, so he was always grounded in the fact that I got to get back on the horse. So I said to him, okay, switch feet. I said, take your time. You tell me when you're ready to reschedule, and we'll reschedule. So, he continues to have a hard time swallowing, so he says, Mom, let's reschedule. So I called on Monday. And I had it in my head that things were going to go a certain way. We were going to have a fallback plan. We were going to do the IV in the arm, and if that didn't work, they would give him laughing gas, which would effectively put him under, and then they'd be able to start the IV because that dilates the veins for whatever reason. And they told me, nope, they couldn't do that. And as we're having this conversation, it's literally like I am a radio receiver, and I can feel my dial being turned, and I can feel my anxiety rising. I can feel it. I mean, it was dramatic how I could just feel like, my tension, my fear rising up, massaging that foot, moving onto the toes if you haven't already. And this made me, I shifted as best I could. And this process started on Monday, and here we are on Friday. So I've brought a lot of awareness into how this week has unfolded for me. And I wouldn't say it's been picture perfect. I've done a lot of things, some of which have been effective, some haven't been so effective, and I'm going to share them all with you so that you can kind of learn from my experience. So coming off the block, if you were seated on a block, actually, you know what, before we come off the block, take whichever foot, it doesn't matter, and let's just tap our feet, as if we're applauding our feet, clapping. And switch feet. And having read this book, come off the block or your pillow or whatever, so you really feel your tailbone grounded down into the earth. Let me pause the story for a moment and just feel yourself grounding down here, dropping into this moment. Scanning the body, seeing how you feel. How are you showing up right now? Eyes are closed. Go inside. And then as you're ready, let's start bringing movement into the body. So we'll do our Sufi Grind. So we exhale back and we inhale forward. Exhale it back, chin draws in, inhale forward. And really feel the hips connecting into the earth. Waking up Muladhara Chakra. The color is red. The seed sound is Lam. And your affirmation or your mantra as you go through this class can be, I am grounded. I am present. I deserve to be here. I am worthy. I am enough. So whatever spoke to you most, you don't have to repeat all of those. You can just choose one. Like, oh yeah, I am enough. That's what speaks to me. Or I am worthy. I am grounded. Really starting to have this be even a bigger swirl of movement. So as I had this call on Monday, I realized, okay, this experience with the endoscopy 2 weeks ago obviously sensitized me, right? And again, I tried as best I could to take a witnessing mentality, to kind of see how this experience showed up in my life. And I noticed a variety of things. And I'm mentioning these to you on the assumption and the belief, go ahead and switch directions, going in the opposite direction, but still inhaling forward and exhaling back. So on the belief that, we show up with these kinds of life challenges in very similar ways. And one of the things that this article that I linked to in the in Circle. And Circle, if you're not part of our Circle yet, the name of the Circle is Yoga and Life Talk with Laura. Okay? And she said something. Her name is Suzanne, I think. Circling around, really feeling, and then coming onto the seat. She said something that that resonated with me. She talked about how, we have this stress reaction in life, and it's, and I'm sure y'all have heard this before. I've talked about it before. Exhale it back, chin comes into the chest, and inhale forward. Where, we have a stress reaction because we're chased by a bear. That's the example that she uses. And what's interesting that she said is we're flooded with adrenaline, and we burn through that adrenaline as part of us running from the bear, right? We burn through that adrenaline as, part of our reaction to that threat. And what's interesting about our lives these days, you can think of, come on into a balanced pose, lifting the feet off the earth just a little bit. Beautiful, long, erect spine, hovering. And then toes come down and roll it back onto the earth and just wiggle it out, rocking back and forth. We'll have these stressful things happen, like at work or at school or, in a social environment. And we know that this is the way we're supposed to respond, right? We're supposed to smile, we're supposed to put on a good face, we're supposed to blah, 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 blah. And what this means is that we're effectively in our body, if you think of your body as a car, okay? Let's go ahead and rock back and forth. We are effectively gunning the engine while we are standing on the brakes, okay? And what this means is our engine starts running really hot because our body is saying, okay, I wanna, and this is mentioned in the book, What Happened to You, the book that I showed you at the beginning of class, is there are actually 4 Fs. We often think of fight or flight. Let's do 3 more. And Dr. Bruce Perry, last one, let's get some good momentum going. So if you can, come all the way to standing and root down into the feet. So what Bruce Perry mentions is that the first F, and you go through these in a series, okay? Let's windshield wiper those arms, empty coat sleeves those arms, tapping the body. We go through these in a series where the very first F, and this is the one I had never heard of before, is we flock. We flock. And what that means is when something happens, we look to others, like, do you believe this? Or like, how should I be responding to this? You know? So we're effectively looking for social cues. Like, am I the only one that's kind of like, what the heck? So that's the first step. We naturally flock. And then we freeze. Okay? We freeze, right? And this is a very natural part of our brain. It's not that we're thinking or anything, we're just freezing. Inhale those arms out and up. Reach up, lift up, and hands down the midline. Feeling yourself rooting down into the feet. And then the next thing we do is we flee, right? That's the flight. And then the last thing we do is we fight. That's the natural escalation of when we experience stress. But because of our social conditioning, we're often, flight and fight is off the table. So we're locked into this dynamic, which really creates an amazing buildup of stress. Inhaling those arms up overhead. And exhale, hands down the midline. And that, thinking about reading the article, I just read it this morning, that kind of put the pieces together, it kind of helped me see how some of the stuff I did yesterday wasn't as helpful as I thought it would be. Stretch it up. And let's arch over. And I'm going to talk to you more about that, about what I did, what worked and what didn't work. Now, before we dig into that, inhale, reach up. Exhale, other direction. I'm going to tell you some of the things I noticed of what happened as I was experiencing this rise in stress. Inhale, lift up, stretch up, reach up. And exhale, dive down. I noticed immediately that my ability to focus, like that day after I had this experience, my ability to work and focus was like out the window, right? My strategic, my cortex, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our brain that we use for making decisions and everything, it was really pretty badly offline. Inhale, arch up halfway, flat back. I also noticed that my self-discipline went way down. Exhale it down. And step it back. Right leg goes back. Hands frame the left foot. Shoulders down the back. Yeah, so Ava says any illness is disharmony in the body. Yes, dis-ease, right? Dis-ease. Breathing here. Another breath. And, so we've got this situation. Ground the hands, step it back, down dog. We've talked about how our engine is revving in response to this stress, but at the same time we're standing on the brakes. And now, our prefrontal cortex, is naturally, it comes offline. Glide forward, plank pose. Breathing here in your plank. And it becomes harder to, exhibit self-discipline. Right? Breathing here. Another breath. And what I did yesterday, I did a variety of things this week, trying to, exhibit self-care. Another breath. And very often our bias, bring the hips up, for self-care is the stuff that feels good, right? I'm going to take a nap. I did that. I'm going to take a hot bath. I didn't do that, but that's an example. I'm going to go get a massage. I did that. okay? But the thing that this article reminded me of, float that right leg back and up, stretch it up, is that self-care, sometimes self-care doesn't necessarily feel great in the moment. Step that right foot forward. Because yesterday, after we did the endoscopy, which we got it done, yay, hips squared forwards, right knee is right over the ankle, arms reach up, lift up. After we did the endoscopy, I had to be up. I set my alarm for like 4:45 a.m. And we went through things. Got home around 9. Breathing here into your Vera 1. I went to bed. So I was tired. And slept for a while. And then had to get up. Long edges of the feet parallel to long edges of the mat. And just come on down. Soften that right knee just a little bit. And grab your blocks here, if you'd like to have your blocks, so that you can have your hands on your blocks, or you can have your hands on your hips, you can have your hands on your thigh. Listen to the body. Whatever speaks to you in this pose, glide the right hip back, square the left hip forward. So then I had to take care of an errand around noon, and I had some lunch. And then around 2 o'clock I was still really dragging, so I went back to bed and took another nap, thinking like, okay, this is me taking care of myself. And, woke up, and it was just kind of like, walking the hands forward, both hands come down, floating the left leg up. And now that I've thought about things differently in light of, this adrenaline that's coursing through our bodies, and we're not having anything physical burn through it, we're not being chased by that bear, which is a good thing. Bring that left arm up, left leg up. I wonder if in the afternoon it would have been better for me to have taken a long walk or done yoga or, done something to get my heart rate up, which honestly wouldn't have been what I wanted to do in that moment. But I think from a physiology standpoint, it would have been better for me hormonally, chemically. Another breath. Step that foot back and inhale, lift up. Because then we're burning through the adrenaline, right? And I think that's one of the reasons that exercise is so powerful when it comes down to relieving anxiety, relieving stress. And if you're like, Laura, oh my gosh, when I'm really stressed and tired, the last thing I want to do is exercise, I hear you. Step up onto that right foot. So maybe what you do is something called a 5-minute takeoff. So hands on the hips, drop that left hip down. Good focused gaze. Virabhadrasana 3. Now your choice if you want to bring your arms back like airplane wings, have your hands together in Anjali Mudra at the heart, or bring the arms forward. Another breath. And then hands come down, standing split, and step it back. Virabhadrasana 1. So the 5-minute takeoff is, I'm just going to do it for 5 minutes. I'm just going to do yoga for 5 minutes. I'm just going to roll out my mat. Do it for 5 minutes. And be honest with yourself. After 5 minutes, if you're like, then stop. Because otherwise you're like, you're a liar. It's not a 5-minute takeoff. It's a 50-minute takeoff. Hands down. And walk your feet out. Okay? Just going to run for 5 minutes. And then if I'm not feeling it, I turn around and come home. Because very often those 5 minutes will get you in the groove. And then you make an honest assessment. Do I want to keep going? Very often the answer will be yes. And when it's no, then you turn around and you go home. Be honest with yourself. Another breath here in your dog. And drop those knees. Hands under shoulders. So when it came down to how I, maneuvered through this week, it was definitely an experience in Swadhyaya. So we're inhale, lifting into our cow. which is self-inquiry, self-study. You know, I was good about really taking a witness mentality, where I was watching how I responded. But I wouldn't say that I definitely made it better in some ways, but I wouldn't say that I gave myself an A+ either, if I was to grade myself, which I won't. Inhale, lift into your cow. One more. Exhale. And then walk those hands forward. Plug the hands in, curl the toes, lift the hips up. Head hangs heavy, tailbone rises up. You know, and this shirt, I'm wearing this shirt as inspiration for the class today. Flip the left leg back and up straight, stretch it up. Which the message on the shirt is create your own calm. Step it forward. And I think we need to just be really kind to ourselves. Set the feet. Because, you know, I'd like to think that I'm pretty good at this. I'm pretty self-aware. You know, I definitely try to go about this week with a lot of deliberation. And I wouldn't say it was a totally smooth ride, you know? And we can like look at others and say, oh my gosh, they've got it together. What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, I promise. I promise there's nothing wrong with you. Breathe in here into the Vira 1. We're all figuring it out. Just some of us will talk about it and a lot of us won't. Stepping off onto that. Left foot, both hands come down. Floating over into your standing split. And then the left hand comes down, right arm reaches up. Ardha Chandrasana. Breathing here. Another breath. And then step it back. Viparita 1. Hips squared forwards. And straighten that front leg. Set your feet so you're not walking on a tightrope. Long edges of the feet parallel to long edges of the mat. Soften that front knee and come on down into your forward fold. Yeah, so Christine says that, you know, it also helps her to move. And yeah, starting off 5-minute takeoff, 10-minute takeoff, whatever works for you. Folding down. Breathing into that leg. Another breath. And then bend that front leg. Inhale, lift up. Vira 1. And step off and take the Vira 3 of your choice. I'm just going to be off camera. Step it back. Arms can go back like airplane wings. And you might notice that one side is quite a bit weaker than the other. Like for me, my left side isn't as balanced. And it's also harder for me to keep that hip down. That's so normal. And also, balance can be really different from day to day. Like, I'm definitely dogging it here right now. That's okay. Just breathe through it. Let go of judgment. Another breath. And then hands come down, either side of the foot. Standing split. And then step it back. Vira 1. And hands either side of the foot. Come on down. Tailbone rises up. Head hangs heavy. Another breath. And your choice if you want to come down into child's pose or rest here in down dog or flow with me through a vinyasa. Come on down, knees, chest, chin. Ashtanga Pranam. And ground out the hips. So Ava says to do a self-inventory of the body. Yeah, we can totally do that. And just kind of make an eternity symbol with the nose. So that's like the number 8 laying on its side, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. So going back and forth here in your Bhujangasana. And then hands into the earth, lift up, breathing. And exhale, come on down. Curl the toes, lift the hips, down dog. So we're going to do a Kriya in a moment, which is compliments of Gurmukh Kaur Khalsa. She's amazing. Breathing here. She's probably the most famous Kundalini yoga teacher. She's authored a variety of books. And I mentioned to you all, step those feet forward, coming into your forward fold. Head hangs heavy. I think we didn't do the, let's set that left leg back, because we didn't do our lunge on this side. So hands frame the right foot, breathing here, and drop that knee down. So I mentioned to you all a few days ago that I've had one experience of Kundalini rising, Shakti rising, and it was with Gurmukh. I had an opportunity to study with her in person at Kripalu. Gosh, it was a long time ago. So she makes stuff happen. She has you do some very interesting things. Very interesting. Curl the toes under and step it forward. Coming into your forward fold. Head hangs heavy, soften those knees. And inhale the arms up. And I'm kind of going through this with that bias of having read that article. And this Kriya is a purification process. This Kriya was in the same article that was mentioned by Stephanie, I think her name was. I've forgotten. So what we're going to do is we are going to utilize breath of fire. Breath of fire is not great for people who have high blood pressure or are pregnant or on the first 2 days of your cycle. So if that's you, you can do the squat. We're going to be squatting without breath of fire. So if you are not familiar with Kapalabhati is when we draw the belly in and then we have a passive inhale. Okay, so we draw the belly in, exhaling. So it's that. Okay, that's Kapalabhati, all right? And we're going to do it while we're squatting, and this is where Gurmukh likes to just kind of ramp it up. We're going to take like a lion's breath. We're going to open our mouth and hang our tongue out, and we're going to pant like a dog. Love it, right? Thank you, Gurmukh. And we're going to do this while squatting. Yay! And again, having this adrenaline, this stress and everything, but not burning it off means that hormonally, chemically, it's not so good. So this is going to be us burning off that gunk. And it's also going to tone our booty. Hey, double thumbs up. So the feet are hip width apart, a little bit wider than hip width apart. Toes are out a little bit, heels are in. And this is where I want you to connect to your squat. Okay, so go slow and be like, okay, how far down? Like this morning I started doing the squats and my left knee was a little tweaky, which is unusual for me. I don't have tweaky knees normally. But listen to the body, okay? All right, the hands reach forward, index fingers like a steeple, pointed forward. Our arms are going to go down. Our arms are going to point straight forward. You softly Close the eyes most of the way. Okay, so connecting with your squat. Where's my squat? Yep, I got it. Heavy in the heels, nice tall spine. And now we'll start. And you don't have to do this fast. Okay, don't feel like you have to rush. But we're opening up into our lion's mouth. Tongue hangs out. And we pant like a dog. And I'm starting to feel hot already. So that's going to feel very natural for me. And we do the Kapalabhati. Now, if you want to go faster than I'm going with the squatting, go for it. I wouldn't bounce. Take care of those knees, okay? But find your own pace. We're going to do this for a minute. So knowing that you're going to be doing it for a minute, you're like, oh, I think I'm going to go slow like Laura. Or go faster, okay? Kapalabhati breathing, and if, again, you have high blood pressure, etc., just do the squatting with no Kapalabhati. Snapping the belly in on your Kapalabhati. Shining up through the crown. My legs are feeling very hot. Eyes are mostly closed. Hang the tongue out of the mouth. Is our minute over yet? Whew. Let's do another 10 seconds. One more. And stretch those arms up overhead. Ooh. On another class, I'll tell you stories about my Kundalini rising experience with Gurmukh. It was intense. Glide over side bending. Inhale, lift up, side bend the other way. I'm turning my fan on. Whew. Oh, yes. And come on up. And another thing that we have, this isn't mentioned in the article, but I'll mention it because I've talked about it before. So feet are wider than hip width apart, grounding down into the balls of the feet. Arms reach up. So I've talked to y'all about Amy Cuddy, who is a researcher on the effect that our body language, our body position has on our chemical state. Another breath, and then settle those heels down. So she talks a lot about power poses. This is a classic one. It's like Wonder Woman, right? Elbows out, taking up lots of space. And when we do power poses like this for 2 minutes, okay, 2 minutes, it drops our cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and it boosts our testosterone, which helps us feel more confident, okay? So it can be a pose like this. It can be a pose with our arms up. We want to take up space, our hands behind our head, like feet up on the desk. You know, think about those really stereotypical leadership power postures, right? Okay? So when you're thinking, you know, about self-care, this can be a way of creating your own calm. Create your own calm. It's on my back of my shirt. Okay? Inhale those arms out and up. Reach up. And exhale, dive down. Inhale, reach up, halfway, flat back. And exhale, come on down. Ground those hands, step it back, down dog. Tailbone lifts, head hangs heavy. And let's, yes, we'll make a quick time for a quick pigeon. I was just thinking, I definitely want to leave time for legs up the wall because that's such a classic one for managing anxiety, boosting our resilience. So our knee is bent off to the side, beautiful open heart in our Kapotasana. Open the throat, lift the chin, and come on down into our pigeon. And if you notice that your right hip is super floaty, you can grab a blanket or a block to give yourself a little bit of stability there. And breathe. We're not going to spend a ton of time in pigeon because I want to leave time for legs up the wall pose. Another breath. And walk those hands up. Breathing here. Beautiful back bend. Squeeze the kidneys and the adrenals. Kidneys and adrenals live just above the belt line in the back body. And then ground those hands. Step it back, down dog. Swing that leg out. And now our left leg goes forward. Coming into our pigeon on this side. And again, returning to your affirmation. Okay? Beautiful, open heart. So the tools we've talked about to help boost our resilience is the 5-minute takeoff for exercise, or whatever it is we have to do. 5-minute takeoff, affirmations, okay, saying to yourself, I am worthy, I am enough, I'm grounded, I am safe. Whatever it is that helps just make you feel like you can breathe through your stress, breathe through that upset. Our power poses with Amy Cuddy. We take up lots of space, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Another breath. The use of Kapalabhati to really burn through that adrenaline. Sweating. Another breath. And then come on to a seat, soles of the feet together, coming into your Baddha Konasana, allowing those knees to fall open. And you can lean one direction as you push the other knee down gently, and switch sides, opening up the groin. And then come on down onto the back. Okay? And here, you can choose. You can have the block near you, and you can do legs up the wall pose on the block. That's the way we've been doing it lately. Or you can do legs up the wall pose at the wall. This is Viparita Karani. And with Viparita Karani, we lift up the hips if you're using a block. And we have the block be wide, the lowest level of the block, the width of it, across the body, okay? Across the body. So that our hips have lots of space to just melt down and be supported, okay? And then we can roll our shoulders together, coming into a little bit of a supported bridge. Snuggle the chin down towards the chest. Breathe here. And if you like a bit more height, you can put another block on top of the one you have. And then taking the legs up. Now, if you're doing it on the block, this isn't recommended if you're on your cycle. So, if you're on your cycle, you can just come into an even longer, juicier Shavasana. For the rest of us, lifting our legs up. This is one of the most relaxing poses we have. It's tremendously good for our neurological systems. It's very cleansing. Close the eyes, go inside. And if you're trying it on the block and you're like, I don't love the block, then come off. Listen to the body. It's just as good with your hips on the ground and legs up the wall. Listen to the body. Allow the body to be the pilot of this experience, remembering I'm always just the co-pilot. You're the one who is determining what suits you and serves you best. And again, it's your choice here. If you're loving Viparita Karani and you want to hang out here longer, brilliant. If you feel like you're ready to come down into Shavasana, brilliant. If you want to do something else before you come into Shavasana, brilliant. You choose. Choosing the shape of Shavasana that works best for you, and listening to the body. Eyes are closed. So our poem from Dana today is called I Am All of This. There are as many paths to truth as there are heartbeats, leaves, fireflies, and summer twilight. Let me tell you of the path that's chosen me, the road that has drawn my feet forward, the way of my awakening. Defying easy definition, it unfolds in I follow. With each step, I let in more of life. I expand into vastness. My reach exceeds my grasp until I hold to nothing solid. I include, widen, grow deeper. This too is me, and this, and yes, even this. There is more emptiness than substance here, and not a single rule to live by. In place of form, there is an ecstatic dance with the boundless infinity of truth. There is freedom, stillness, song, and silence, sustenance, and the end of supplication. In place of seeking, there is finding without loss, and love without boundaries. There are no walls in this existence. Here is no difference out or in. All that is radiates, quickens, awakens, fills and empties in the same breath. And I know beyond doubt or any hesitation that I am all of this. Breathing here into that sense of I am all of this. Breathing into the fullness and breathing into the silence. Breathing into that sense that everything is just as it should be right now. I am all of this. And with the eyes still closed, connect with the body and see how the body wants to bring movement back into this practice. What does that look like? How does that feel? Connecting more and more to your intuition. And then as you're ready, rolling over onto the right side, wrapping the arms around yourself and just gently rock it out. Hugging yourself, giving yourself so much love. So much love. And then carefully pressing yourself up into an easy seat. Hands at the heart space. Rubbing the hands in front of the heart. And bring the hands into the heart space. Snuggle the base of the thumbs into the sternum. Nice big inhale. Let's om out 3 times. Inhaling. Flower open your lotus. Thumbs and the pinkies stay together. The other fingers open up. Nice big inhale. And then bringing the hands together, cupped in front of the heart. Feeling them open. Willing to receive wisdom, willing to receive guidance and intuition from that higher source. Nice big inhale.